Good morning. I am Dr. B. Krishna Reddy, Principal of Samala Krishna Agricultural Polytechnic College, Tangellavaripalli, near Mudivedu, Tambalapalli Mandal, Chittoor district. Today, we are going to deal with lecture number 5 in course number 153, that is Agriculture Engineering, meant for Diploma in Agriculture Engineering students. To begin with, let us see what is ionization. The process of spontaneous splitting of an electrolyte into ions when dissolved in a solvent is called electrolyte dissociation or ionization. When a substance is dissolved in one solvent, that substance gets dissociated into its ionic form, that is known as ionization. Arrhenius in 1887 put forward the theory of ionization or electrolytic dissociation. This is also known as electrolytic dissociation, that is ionization or electrolytic dissociation is the same. Factors influencing the ionization. Several factors influence the ionization, in that the main factors are: number 1, nature of solute. Strong acids, bases and salts obtained by their interaction are almost completely ionized in solutions. So whenever strong acids or strong bases or strong salts are dissolved, they will get completely ionized. On the other hand, weak electrolytes ionized partially. That means strong acids, bases or salts ionize completely, whereas the weaker substance electrolytes will get ionized partially. Okay, that is the nature of solute. Solute means the substance which get dissolved into a solution is called solute. Then temperature. Higher the temperature, greater is the ionization. Here what happens? Increased molecular velocities overcome the forces of attraction between the ions, and consequently ionization is great. That is, ionization is very fast. The reason here is, whenever the temperature increased, the increased temperature will result in the movement of molecular velocities will increase. This increased molecular velocity will overcome the forces of attraction between the ions. So because of this, the ionization process will speed up. That is number 2. Number 3, concentration. The extent of dissociation of electrolyte is inversely proportional to the concentration of its solution. That is, lesser is the concentration of the solution, then greater is the dissociation of an electrolyte. In a given solution, if the solution concentration is less, then the ionization process will be very high. Fourth one, nature of solvent. The nature of the solvent is measured by dielectric constant. That is, solvent means the material or a substance into which another thing get dissolved or solubilized. So, for example, water, alcohol, ether, these are the various types of solvents into which some other materials will get dissolved. Okay, so water has got dielectric constant of 80, alcohol 25, ether 4.1. These things need to be remembered by the students. The higher the value of dielectrical constant, the greater is the dissociation of electrolyte dissolved in it. Suppose in water, water is having a higher dielectric constant compared to alcohol, which is at 25, and ether 4.1. If a substance is dissolved in water, it will get dissolved at a higher rate compared to in alcohol or in ether. So, the dielectric constant is a quantitative measure of ability of a material to store electric charges. In fact, what this dielectric constant uh, reflects is it is a quantitative measure of its ability to store electric charges. So, to store the electric charges of in a substance is reflected in its dielectric constant. That means water 80 means alcohol 25 means compared to alcohol, the water will have the ability to store more of electrical charge. That is what it means. Then comes to the ionic equilibrium, the Ostwald's dilution law. According to Arrhenius' theory of dissociation, an electrolyte dissociates into ions in water. So whenever this electrolyte is get dissolved in water or any other solvent, then the solute will get dissociated into solute, or the electrolyte will get dissociated into ions. These ions are in a state of equilibrium with the undissociated molecules. Whenever the electrolyte is get dissolved or disassociated in a solution, in a solvent, in the solution will have both types of that is ionic form as well as that is dissociated ions and undissociated molecules of the solute. Both will be present, and these will present in an equilibrium. This equilibrium is called the ionic equilibrium. That is dissociated ions of a solute or electrolyte and undissociated molecule of the electrolyte, both will have certain equilibrium. This equilibrium is called ionic equilibrium. So students need to remember what is ionic equilibrium. This can be asked in the examination. Kindly remember and try to learn it thoroughly. Let us consider a binary electrolyte AB, which dissociates into in solution to the ions A plus and B minus. So for example, if you take a electrolyte namely AB, which is a binary in nature, then the dissociated solution will contain A plus and B minus ions, and there will be dissociated molecules of the AB also in the solution. Then the ionic equilibrium can be expressed as below. That is AB in equilibrium with A plus plus B minus. When C molecules per liter be the concentration of the electrolyte. Here C means the concentration of the electrolyte, and alpha its degree of dissociation. When alpha is the degree of dissociation, the concentration at equilibrium will be reflected as below. AB is equal to C, that is concentration of electrolyte, into 1 minus alpha. Alpha is nothing but degree of dissociation, moles per liter. So AB is equal to C into 1 minus alpha moles per liter. Like this it will be expressed, which means A plus is equal to C alpha moles per liter. B is equal to C alpha moles per liter. So in other words, say for example concentration you take 100, then alpha will be 0.2, 100 into 1 minus 0.2. That is for AB. If you take A for A plus, it will be 100 into 0.2, that is 20%. Here it is 80%. Then for B ion, it will be 100 into 0.2, that is 20%. Okay. So then same thing is expressed here. If the concentration C is 100 moles per liter, if the concentration of the solution is 100 molecules per liter, then 100 moles per liter is AB. After the reaction, what happens? AB will be to the extent of 80 moles per liter, and A plus ions will be 20 moles per liter, and B minus ions will be 20 moles per liter. Don't get confused. 80, 20, 20, it will become 120. No. Here moles per liter of A plus ions and 20 moles per liter of B plus ions. So within the 100, this 20 is applicable for both. Since it is moles per liter, it is expressed like this. Okay. Then on applying law of mass action, we get, so the same equation, when we apply the law of mass action, what is the law of mass action? The rate of chemical reaction is proportional to the concentration of the reacting substances. So the rate of chemical reaction is proportional to the concentration of the reacting substances. That means when the reacting substances are having higher concentration, then the rate of chemical reaction will be on a higher side. Okay, if this is applied, and the above formula can be rewritten like this: rate of dissociation. We get rate of dissociation. So that is alpha. Rate of dissociation is nothing but alpha. Rate of dissociation is K1 into C into 1 minus alpha. The rate of combination is, that is K2 into C alpha into C alpha, which becomes K1 into C into 1 minus alpha is equal to K2 into C alpha into C alpha. This is rate of combination. This is rate of dissociation. Both will be in equilibrium. So that is why dissociation formula and the combination formula are both are in equilibrium. So C alpha into C alpha by C into 1 minus alpha is equal to K1 by K2, which is equal to Kc. That is equal to S alpha square C by 1 minus alpha moles per liter. Like this, we arrive at the equation number 1. So this Kc is a equilibrium constant, and it is also called a dissociation constant or ionization constant. Okay, so it has a constant value at a constant temperature. This equilibrium constant or dissociation constant or ionization constant will be constant for a given substance at a constant temperature. If 1 mole of electrolyte be dissolved in V liters of solution, then C concentration is equal to 1 by V. Thus, the equation 1 becomes as under. So this equation will become like this. Let us see. A plus into B plus minus by AB is equal to Kc alpha by V into alpha by V by 1 minus alpha by V is equal to A square by 1 minus alpha into V, or in other words, Kc is equal to A square by 1 minus alpha into V. V is known as the dilution of the solution. Okay. From formula 1, you will get the here formula 2. Okay. Then where C is a concentration of the electrolyte in moles per liter. This expression, which correlates the variation of degree of dissociation of an electrolyte with dilution, is known as Ostwald's dilution law. This Ostwald's dilution law explains the relation between dissociation constant, that is K, and the degree of dissociation, that is alpha, of a weak electrolyte. Generally for all electrolyte will do, but it is more applicable to weak electrolytes. This Ostwald's dilution law. So let us see how this Ostwald's dilution law works. For weak electrolytes, the value of alpha is very small as compared to 1. So 1 minus alpha may be taken approximately equal to 1 because alpha is very negligible. Thus, Ostwald's dilution law becomes Kc is equal to alpha square by V, or root KCV. It implies that the degree of dissociation of weak electrolyte is proportional to the square root of the dilution. Kindly remember, it implies the degree of dissociation of a weak electrolyte is proportional to the square root of the dilution. Let us see how the Ostwald's dilution law apply to the strong electrolytes. Here the value of alpha is large and cannot be neglected in comparison with 1. So K is equal to alpha square by 1 minus alpha into V, or that is in other words, A square is equal to KCV minus Kc alpha V. Then K into 1 minus alpha into V is equal to alpha square into alpha KCV plus alpha square minus KCV, that is equal to 0. Here it is for weak electrolytes it is 1, whereas for strong electrolytes it is 0. Verification of Ostwald's law. How this Ostwald's law can be verified? It can be verified if the value of alpha, that is degree of dissociation, at different dilutions are known. The value of alpha are determined experimentally by using the relation alpha is equal to lambda V by lambda infinite, where lambda V and lambda infinite are the equilibrium conductance at dilution V and infinity dilutions respectively. Here instead of lambda alpha, I think it need to be replaced with lambda alpha, lambda infinite. Here also it should be I think to be written as the lambda infinite. because here it is given as a infinite dilution. So whereas lambda v and lambda infinite are the equivalent conduct, conductance at dilution v and infinite dilutions respectively. Their values are found by conductance measurements and Collard's law. The value of alpha at various dilutions thus determined are inserted in the expression Kc is equal to alpha square by 1 minus alpha into V. If the values of Kc come out to be constant, then the Ostwald's law stands verified. That means it is to get got proven. Okay, limitations of Ostwald's law, but there are certain limitations for this Ostwald's law. Ostwald's dilution law hold good only for weak electrolytes, as we already discussed or explained in detail. The Ostwald's dilution law applicable to weak electrolytes and fails completely when applied to the strong electrolytes. For strong electrolytes which are highly ionized in solution, the value of dissociation constant, far from remaining constant, rapidly falls with dilution, which can be supported by the following. So whenever the strong electrolytes are there, with the strong increasing in the electrolyte concentration, the ionization will be very high, that is increases. So far from remaining, instead of K remaining constant, it will rapidly falls with the dilution. When dilution increases, the K values will get reduced drastically. This is seen in the table also. Okay, this volume, when volumes of solution increases, that means dilution increases. This K is falls very drastic from 2.356 when there is a 1 liter of volume of the solution. When it becomes 2 liters, it becomes 1.434. When it becomes 5.813. So finally, when the dilution is 500, then it becomes 0.1084. Okay, so this is one of the limitations. Then factors that explain the failures of Ostwald's law in case of strong electrolyte. Why this Ostwald's law is not applicable or why it is failing in case of strong electrolytes, the factors have been discussed here. This law is based on Arrhenius theory, which assumes that only a fraction of the electrolyte is dissociated at ordinary dilutions and complete dissociation occurs only at infinite dilutions. That is the law of Arrhenius theory, which assumes that only a fraction of the electrolyte is dissociated at ordinary. In general dilutions, out of the entire electrolyte substance, only a fraction, very small quantity get diluted, and to get the complete dissociation, it requires infinite dilution. However, this is true for weak electrolytes. However, this rule is applicable to very weak electrolytes, and strong electrolytes are almost completely dissociate at a dilution. So if it is a strong electrolyte, it will get totally dissociated, and if it is a weak electrolyte, it will get only a fraction of it get diluted, and with the infinite dilutions only, full weak electrolyte will get fully dissociated. At all dilutions, that is lambda v by lambda infinite does not give the accurate value of lambda. Okay. Then the Ostwald's law is derived on the assumption that the law of mass action holds for the ionic equilibrium as well, but when the concentration of ion is very high, the presence of charges affects the equilibrium. So, law of mass action in its simple form cannot be applied. That means the Ostwald's law is derived from the assumption that the law of mass action, that is, what is law of mass action? The reaction is proportional to the concentration of the concentration. Whenever the concentration increases, the rate of reaction increases. So, the law of mass action holds for the ionic equilibrium as well, but when the concentration of ion is very high, the presence of charges affects the equilibrium. So, law of mass action in its simple form cannot be applied. Number 3, the ions obtained by dissociation may get hydrated and may affect the concentration. In terms of better results are obtained by using activities instead of concentration. That means the ions obtained by dissociation will get hydrated, and this hydration will affect the concentration. And so, uh, in terms of better results are obtained by using activities instead of concentrations of the materials. So with this, today we will conclude the first part of the lesson, and we will continue the second part of this lecture in the next class. Thank you very much.